This is the Slots and Sockets podcast, episode number 23. I am one of your hosts, IRD Moose, and my partner, who's making
23.
23.
Turbo Penguin.
Turbo Penguin. Good evening, Turbo. So, in this episode, we're going to do a little bit of a reaction to AMD going spanky to Intel with the recent release of the 9800 X3D. And what do we got going on?
Well, okay. So first and foremost, let's talk about let's talk about 9800 X3D because we had a lot of people kind of saying who him and ha about it was good, how good was it going to be, and we saw some leaks and they looked positive, and then review day came out on the 6th, and I don't know if you could have had a better set of reviews on launch day for AMD than what they had.
Yeah.
It was everything that AMD needed it to be and more. Under promise and over delivered.
Which is exactly what our issues were with the other 9,000 parts that they released.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it was the exact opposite. Before they they over promised and under delivered. And then they fixed that later with some things, but some microcode updates. But man, there is just really hard to find flaws in this CPU knowing where it's at.
Yep.
I really, really wish 9800 X3D would have launched alongside the non-X3D parts, because it would have been a very different type of conversation. Here's your gaming CPU and here's your creator CPU.
Yep.
I just think it's, AMD did a really bad job with that, but oh man, it's so good. I mean, and the one thing is that you look at this and you look at a lot of reviews, regardless of which review you look at. The one thing that I saw the most positive thing, a lot of the boost in performance that we saw was on the 1% lows.
Right.
Guys, what that means, well, and gals, I guess, what that means is that your lows are going to be higher, your highs are going to be higher. It shifts the whole average up. But the other thing is when you have difficult games that are using more of your CPU, the 9800 X3D is going to keep those lows higher. It's going to bring your average up. It's going to be a lot more tight as far as your frame pacing. This was what not, I sort of think that next generation for AMD really just should be X3D for all of their CPUs.
Yeah. And
just be like, everything gets X3D. You get X3D, you get X3D, everybody gets X3D. And I think maybe the biggest difference might be in the next generation that we see from them is we're going to see bigger scaling of X3D sizes.
Probably, because I think this generation shows that having the extra memory on the chip, kind of as we saw in the past with Intel, with the EDRAM in certain SKUs, having access to that for the processor just makes life that much better. It's going to be, I think, a good move for AMD to do something like that, but I don't know that they will, because they're still going to want to keep that segmentation for the lower end parts. We might see kind of the middle range parts all go 3D, and then the lower end stuff still coming out with the non 3D variants.
Think if they came out with a 4-core 8-thread 3D version, like budget gamers would be like, heck yes. Because the honest truth is that 8 cores in some respects might, how many times you need all 8 cores? And it would be interesting to see if you had 4 cores with 8 threads and a ton of cache that was more evenly, so each core had more of like a bigger slice of the cache.
Hmm.
Like, could you make a 4 core just scream in gaming?
Sure.
It'd be interesting to see how that would look, but like make it like 4 Uber cores, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
6.9 gigahertz, something silly like that. But I
Yeah,
mean,
give it all the frequency. Yeah, well, and you can kind of do some of that now by turning off SMT. In fact, if you take a look at the Gamers Nexus stream where
a lot of
uh,
the overclockers are finding some good performance there, right?
yeah, and they turned off SMT to get that much more frequency. And the benefits that they got were actually kind of along the lines of what I saw with my Nehalem CPU, my i7 950, where, at a at the time I was first starting with overclocking with it, I could get an extra 200-300 megahertz out of it just by disabling hyperthreading, and was able to turn the voltage down, generate less heat, and get a more stable overclock that in the long run gave me far better performance that was more usable because there really wasn't much that was taking advantage of 4 cores and 8 threads at in the 2009 2011 timeframe. But now we are starting to see a lot of stuff spreading out and using more cores, using things more efficiently. And we're kind of going through that part of the cycle where, for a few years we've had these, 8 core, 16 core, hyper threaded and SMT enabled CPUs. And the vast majority of the time, a lot of those that thread capability was just idle, which is why we got things like PBO and we got variable turbo boost and things like that. Because, if you got your other cores idle, why not boost extra on one of your on the core that's actually being used? But
So
yeah, it's kind of it's an interesting proposition there that you suggest about hey, let's do a budget gamer CPU that's got a whole bunch
it would be
of 3DV
interesting.
cache in it.
It would be interesting to see if you put 1 or 2 cores on a chiplet and then had 2 or 3 chiplets,
Yeah.
each with their own 3DV cache. If that would be, it would be interesting from an architecture perspective. One thing really interesting, and
Mhm.
I find this very, very interesting. 9800 X3D is hard to find unless you have a store near you, because I saw these reports and I'm like, that's interesting. And then that scalpers, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I was on Facebook Marketplace, and I saw a couple of scalpers. I'm like, guys, like, I've got a local micro center. So I go online, plug in, put in, and 25 plus 9800 X3D chip, cores
Hmm.
available, 25 plus. So they've got tons of them.
Yeah.
Now, I'm guessing if you're only buying from Newegg or online retailer, that maybe these are harder to come by. So if you're trying to get one, go to a micro center or go to a physical store, you might have better luck. But the other thing is that AMD came out and said, basically made a press release and said, we're making a crap ton of these. We're
Hmm.
shipping them more than once a week. They're going out. I do look for everybody out there. If you want to spend stupid money to do this, go ahead and go scalp it. But realistically speaking, we do not expect there to be really a shortage. I do think online some of these are going to sell really quick, but the thing that we're hearing is that these are selling very healthily. Um, these are selling very quickly. So if you see one and you're in the market, just get it.
Yeah.
And the other half I would say is that 7800 X3D is still a great part. I would tell people, if you're looking for a good deal, a used one, but I would preface this by saying you're going to be 10-20% lower right now, performance wise. Personally speaking, I think 7800 X3D's got to be into the low twos before, or into the low threes before I'm really interested in that chip at the price, because at that point, if you're going to spend 350, $400, dude, just go get the 9800 X3D. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
so it's got to be enough of a savings there. So, and they're there, so you can find them. If you've got a Micro Center, there's zero reason for you to not go and buy one of their bundles,
Yep.
because you can get for 32 gigs of RAM a X670E motherboard from MSI and the 9800 X3D, and it's like 649. It's a great deal. So just keep an eye out for them. If you're having a hard time, just give it a week or two. Um, my guess is that these probably sell quick, but nothing like GPU days where people are trying to hoard them. And people who are scalpers, you all suck.
Yep, scalpers absolutely suck. Well,
Um,
and what we're seeing as far as the sales going is kind of along the lines of what we said we expected to see when people were complaining about the sales for the 9000 series before 3D came out. It was like, look, we knew 3D was coming. We knew it was coming soon. Why are you surprised by this? Nobody,
yeah,
most of the people that are going to buy these want the 3D part because they want the 3D performance. And you know that's why AMD's marketing was completely baffling, because they're like, oh, this is a great gaming CPU. No, no. I mean, the 9700 is a decent gaming CPU, but calling it great when just a couple months down the line you've got a 9800 X3D coming. uh, Come on, guys. Come on. And, you know, I mean, the marketing material for this one is very similar to what we were seeing with the other 9000 series parts, where it's like, oh, this is the best for gaming, you know, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, the benchmarks finally bear that out. And
yeah,
it's kind of funny how, you know, AMD shot themselves in the foot, and then they're wondering why nobody wants to buy the non 3D parts.
but
Um,
with that being said, if you want a deal,
yeah.
go out and buy yourself a 9000 series non 3D, or even if you can find a 7000 series, because
Hmm.
they're very good. But like I'm looking here, a 9600X, okay, bundle motherboard, CPU, RAM, 329.
Mm,
329 for a
mm.
6-core current gen non 3D. I mean, that's great. And then the beauty about this is that, you know, later when the 3D parts become cheaper, you'll have an instant upgrade path on that, and a processor that's going to do really well. So right now, there's really good opportunities to get some really good stuff. Like I said
Yeah.
here at Micro Center, 7600 X3D bundle, 399. To be
That's a
honest,
solid part.
that's a
Yeah.
great 6-core 12-thread X3D DDR5 32 gigs for 399. That's a hard one to pass when it
Yeah.
comes to budget gamers, and budget gamers got to be looking out for this. I'm not sure, and we'll have in a couple of weeks a Christmas Black Friday special of what to look for. I really think gamers should leave open the opportunity to look on the used marketplace, because there are a plenty of gamers that are looking at that have a 7800 X3D or a 5800 X3D that are going to want to jump to the 9000 9800. And when those parts come onto the marketplace, they're going to come in high, and then they're going to sit. And I think probably within about, I don't know, a week or two after Thanksgiving, we're going to see some really strong opportunities to get some really good stuff on marketplace. So keep that in the mind, that if you're on a budget, you may want to sit back and wait for this, because I don't think that we're going to see any price decreases on new pieces. I don't think we're going to see anything, especially from the AMD side. Now, Intel is I would expect Intel to see some pricing pushback.
Hmm.
They are selling so poorly that I think they have to, and how well the 9800 X3D is performing. I really think the Core 200 series is going to be a flop because it's going up against something so good, but two, I think people are just more or less concerned. But Intel will have some good opportunities. Right now, the deals are absolutely not on the Intel side.
No.
It is really, really interesting.
Nor is the
If I look,
silicon, to be
no,
honest.
but like a 7600X but motherboard bundle for $299. The cheapest bundle on the Intel side is a 12900K, which is not a bad part, but for $400, $100 more. I would take the 9600X all day long over it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, especially considering what I witnessed during the LAN party this past weekend at one of the vendor booths. I don't know that we want to name the vendor because it's not really their fault, but they couldn't get a 285K to post. They went through 7 boards, 3 different CPUs, and none of them posted until they swapped out the RAM for AMD RAM, AMD certified RAM. And then all of a sudden it posted. Turned out, after all that troubleshooting, the one thing you never suspect is the problem was the problem. It was the memory. And even
Speaking of
Intel, even an Intel engineer that was at the LAN party couldn't figure out why it wouldn't post. So
look, I don't think
200 series is going through issues.
I don't know. Look, Intel came out and said that we're going to get some performance increases and that the launch was poor. I'm going to guess that they're probably saying that because sales are pathetic.
Yeah. Deservedly so.
Yeah, deservedly so. I sort of wonder if we're going to, if this really isn't going to make a difference. If it really is an issue, we'll see. But I don't know. I mean, from my perspective, I think just in general, gamers are really skeptical right now. I mean, Intel still hasn't come out and really kind of come clean on this. And I think, at least in the DIY side, I think that gamers are like, yeah, we get it. You guys screwed us. And, it wasn't until, we had a bunch of people yelling at you that this was a problem that you actually listened. And I think there's lies the problem. I think that they've lost some trust. So,
well, and who is it?
Well, because.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Well, I was going to say, who is it that writes the purchase orders for data centers? That's going to be gamers. And
typically.
Yeah. And they're not buying Intel parts for the data centers.
Yeah, I think everything across the board. The only thing I'll say with microcode with Intel is that we know there's going to come some microcode updates. Just double check your microcode updates, and I would probably be on the fence on being the first to try microcode updates. And with Intel, I believe with AMD, I'm not as concerned. But I mean, Intel had told us 4 or 5 times it's fixed, and it wasn't fixed. Yeah. I'm not sold that these problems on 13th and 14th are fixed. I think that they want to tell themselves that, and I think they want to think that. But I would bet there's some engineers who are like, well, yeah, it's going to crash less, or it's going to fail less. It's going to fail later in its lifetime now. Because I don't feel like they've been strong enough on the, this is what's going on. This is where this problem is. And this is Intel, classic Intel, big corporation, protecting profits. And that's exactly why they haven't said why it is, because if they came out and said what it is, then investors are going to start asking questions. Investors are already starting to ask questions regardless, Intel, because you're going to get sued. You already are getting sued, and you're going to get stiffed really poorly on that. So anyways, as far as CPU news, it's really kind of been driving the news headlines there. The only thing we have graphics wise, and I don't expect we will have anything before the end of the year, to be honest, solid concrete on graphics, is a couple of leaks saying the 5090 could be $2,000 plus.
Oh, wow.
Now,
Yeah. Mm.
it's leaks. Take it with a grain of salt.
Mm.
If it's a leak, Intel's not doing a really good job of saying, or Nvidia's not saying a really good job of being like, well, no, that's not true.
Yeah.
So now it also could be AMD Nvidia throwing this out there just to kind of get a gauge of what the response is. At $2,000, I think, look, if you're a trust fund and you've got just loads of money,
Hmm.
and you can and want to, more power to you. I think for the average gamer, I think they look at that and be like, no. I
Yeah.
mean, $2,000 when I built my first computer was twice of the budget I had for my first computer.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, and that goes back to $1999. So, I mean, that's got to
So it's
be.
about on par with the current value of that computer in modern money. But yeah, I mean it's still, I mean, $2,000 for a graphics card is ridiculous. I mean, I remember when Nvidia bumped the price of the 80 models to $799 with the 700 series. Everybody was freaking out, and it's like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? You're raking us over the coals. And then Nvidia's like, but it just works. And then came the 30 series, and the pandemic in 2020, and they got away with jacking all the prices up because the scalpers did it for them, and the market
I
adjusted.
I really hope that 8800, the RDNA 4 that's coming out from AMD is a huge value proposition,
Yeah.
and I really hope that that just sells like bananas, because I really want Nvidia to see their competition start moving a ton of parts, because at the end of the day, Nvidia dominating the gaming graphics section is bad. I
Yep.
don't care what people say, it is bad. It is better for us to have competition. AMD needs to step up. Their Radeon has been average at best.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't have a problem with going after the value market share. I really don't. But I think that they missed the opportunity, and I don't know what the issue was behind it. If it wasn't ready, if they weren't ready, if the fab wasn't ready, or if they moved it to bring 9800 X3D sooner. But when it's all said and done, I think it would have been amazing if they could have done it. I don't know if they could have done it. I think that's probably part of the issue. I don't think they could have done 9800 X3D and 8800 XT, or whatever they're going to call it,
Yeah.
that close to each other. I think the problem was the fab. I think that they retooled the fab that they were going to use to do the 9800 X3D to get those out. And I
Hmm.
think that they're going to then start bidding up some RDNA 4 chips. Who knows? We'll
Yeah.
see.
Or
We'll see.
the UDNA parts. Yeah, because that I think is where that's what I suspect they made this play for, is like, okay, do we go crazy nuts and do an RDNA 4 900 series part to try and compete with NVIDIA? Or do we lay back and go nuts? We do a short run of the 8000 series and then just go nuts with something brand new with UDNA. And I have a feeling that's what they did. Is we're probably going to see a short generation with the 8000 series cards. We might even see a significant reduction in the number of SKUs. You know, we'll probably see maybe an 8800 and maybe an 8600, and that's it. I'm just speculating at this point, but you know, considering we've only heard the 8800 XT, and we haven't seen any leaks or rumors about lower SKU cards. There's a good chance they may have just been like, okay, we're clearing fab space. We got to get UDNA out the door because, NVIDIA is spanking us on the performance department. And, we really only have something to compete with 40 series right now.
Very well could be it. Very
Yep.
well could be it. I mean, all I can say is I hope that we have some positive things coming there. So
Yeah. Yep, we could definitely use a lot more positivity in this industry. And on that positive bombshell, I think we will call it a show at this point. So thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for giving us a little bit of your day, and remember to like and subscribe and comment and do all the things down the doobly-doo. If there's any particular topic you'd like to see us cover in a future show or one of our holiday episodes that's coming up, give us some ideas. We're looking for you guys to be part of the community. So thank you again for watching, and until next time, have fun storming the castle.
Hasta luego.
Good night, everybody.